Alrighty, well, hello and welcome to all of our engaged staff, faculty, and community partner panel. For those who may not know me, my name is Nikki Sosa, and I'm the Community Partnerships Coordinator in the Collaborative for Community Engagement. I'm so excited to have you join us and to hear from our awardees this year. I feel personally honored to introduce our awardees in this panel, and even more honored to have the opportunity to work with all of these amazing folks on a regular basis. So joining us today, we have Amy Hill, Director of Campus Activities. Her, along with Antonio Soto, who is the Campus Activities Postgrad Equivalent, are the recipients of the Community Engaged Staff Award. We have Kat Miller-Stevens, Assistant Professor in the Economics and Business Department, recipient of the Exemplary Achievement and Community Engaged Teaching Award, and Joy Armstrong, Development Director for Inside Out Youth Services, representing Inside Out as the recipient of the Outstanding Community Partner Award. So welcome to all of you. Our session focus today will be to learn more from our awardees on their collaborative work this last year. We do have some questions to kick things off. And then if we do have some time, we'll open it up for folks who are joining us to ask questions of everyone. So to get started for our panelists, and please feel free in any order, jump in to answer our questions that we have. If you can start by telling us about how and why you prioritized community engagement in your work this year. This could have been efforts to build community, campus community collaborations, or engaging with broader social justice issues. So whoever would like to kick us off, please jump right in.
I can start. I guess I'm already unmuted, so I'll just get things going. And Nikki, you may have to remind me of some components of that question to make sure I answer it thoroughly. But thinking about the last year plus at Inside Out, which we are every day at Inside Out focused on a very specific community. So thinking about LGBTQ plus and allied young people in the Pikes Peak region. But it's very easy, especially when you have limited resources. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy. Nothing about it is easy. But when you have limited resources that include limited finances and staff time and all of those things that go into making a nonprofit organization like ours work, you can quickly fall into a routine, I think, where you're offering the same programs, you're meeting the same needs. And it's difficult because of all of these restrictions to think beyond. And the last year has shown us that it's important for us always, not just in moments of necessity, but to be constantly asking questions of our community and really listening to what those needs are so that we can be shifting and responding and being proactive with our community. In this case, something we've talked about for years is how do we take programs into the virtual world, which was an absolute necessity this year. And we found that, during this year of COVID, where we've spent now 13 months online with our young people, we've had like 120 new youth join us, which is more than I think we've ever seen in a single year. And attributing a big part of that to now being able to access us online. So I think a lot of those lessons of the time is now. We can't wait for something to happen that forces us into making a change. And the last year has shown us that we have to be responding. We have to be proactive. We have to be thinking about intersectionality. We have to be thinking about identity in different ways than we have been, and making sure that we are really meeting the needs of our community. So being able to have a partner like Colorado College and having Ryan O'Mara, who was our PIFP fellow last summer and who is still with Inside Out because he has just been so fabulous. But building those relationships within the community has been essential for us this year.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Joy. I think we're having some similar conversations as well, continuing that adaptability, and appreciate you sharing what that work has looked like for you all. And yeah, would love to hear from Kat and Amy, how and why you have prioritized community engagement in your work this past year.
I'll go next. For me, community engagement is just a part of what I do. It's something I believe strongly in, and it's the fulfilling piece, I think, of my day to day work. I have often Well, when I was younger, I wanted to go into the nonprofit sector. That was my goal. And I have a master's in nonprofit management. I thought I would move from there into the sector. But then I also have a passion for public policy. And it just became natural to continue on in school to a public policy PhD, but also integrate the nonprofit work. And with all of that, so coming out of out of school, I thought, well, how can I integrate these two things? And this isn't exactly what you asked, Nikki. This is my life's history. But I thought I would go into a nonprofit that worked on public policy. And that was harder to find in the way that I wanted to do the work. I just couldn't find the right job. So I landed in academia. And initially I thought, well, I can teach about all of these things, and then quickly realized, wait a minute, I can actually be involved in the community deeply and still be in academia as well. It's not one or the other. And from there, I just have been committed to this work. So, to answer your question, in the last year, I had been part of the CCE cohort to partner faculty with organizations in the community, and IOIS and Community Health Partnership were the two I was initially working with. And I didn't want to let those projects go because I felt my own desire to do it, but I also wanted the students to have that experience. And it was really hard at first to figure out how can we make this meaningful for the students through an online experience. And I think we succeeded, but it was a learning curve for sure. And now I'm doing it again this block for nonprofit management, working with IOIS again, and which is amazing. And this time it'll be a little smoother. So that didn't exactly answer your question, but I just wanted to keep with the work.
I love that. I appreciate hearing that this is not just this past year for you. This is part of your work, of who you are, and I appreciate hearing that. Amy, I see that I missed introducing somebody who is with you there.
Peter, he's on his Thursday evening perch. So every Thursday during the CCSGA meetings, I'm normally in. My dog likes to come sit on my lap and make cameos. And so he decided to join tonight for the community engagement recognition night. But thanks for, the nomination and for receiving the award, and to the people who nominated us. I feel like I'm about to give an Oscar speech, but a lot of what Joy and Kat just shared really resonated with me as well.
I think we lost you, Amy. You broke up a little bit there, and then
This has been a part of my life and community as a child, and I
Let's see if Amy is able to jump back in with Peter. But also just want to take a moment to highlight Amy and Antonio have been incredible collaborators, not just for the CCE and the students we support through community engagement, but for our entire student body, have been really remarkable in thinking of creatively and how to build and create community in the last year when students are primarily and really only engaging online, thinking of safe and creative ways to still get our students to connect with local community and learn about Colorado Springs and support local businesses. So definitely greatly appreciate their collaborations and partnerships. So I'll check in real quick to see, Amy, if you're still there. No. Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me? Of course, my internet cuts out right when I'm talking.
Yes.
I was just, saying that service and community engagement has always been a foundation and a pillar of my life, growing up. And this year has been especially personal to me. And this is whenever Angelina was talking about finding your own identities and how they intersect and how that can plug you into the community. And so I was an exchange student in Germany when in
during 2001 for September 11th. And I remember how like traumatic and challenging it was to be in a foreign country away from your family when there was like a global crisis going on. And so whenever campus, everyone got sent home last March, and it was a lot of international students who couldn't return home because of the closed borders, or other people who didn't have a place to go back to that were left on campus. I was like, hey, like, let's step up and see how we can like serve these students and work with them and be a family and build community amongst them. And that's kind of how the weekly food pantry started out, where we're like, okay, people can't go to the grocery store, they might not have the funds to do that, we'll go shopping for them, we'll bring that onto campus, we'll start the campus activities center, let's see what things we can do in the Colorado Springs community that are going to be COVID safe, that can provide some sense of normalcy. And so it was kind of me like reaching back to when I was in high school going through that. And I was like, I felt so lonely. I felt like no one cared, and just wanting to have that extra like nurturing and touch for a lot of our students that were, pretty much stranded on campus for a year and a half. And the impact of that grew exponentially and more than I could ever imagine, and overlapped with my passions for housing insecurity and food insecurity, and some issues that I'd been more involved in Los Angeles before I moved to Colorado Springs. And so it's definitely been the most like soul-filling and joy-filling work that I've done this year, and it's my favorite thing to do, to do the community events and to do the food pantry and to work directly with students to see how we can, make their experience better in such a trying time.
Thanks, Amy. Thank you all so much for sharing. With the work that you've done, Ken, Amy, on CC's campus and doing outreach and working collaboratively with the community, and Joy Inside Out doing collaborative projects with CC, could you share with us why you feel it's important for CC to work collaboratively with community, and why it's important for Inside Out and community organizations to work collaboratively with Colorado College?
Well, at Inside Out, we have had the honor of working with a number of CC students over the years. But this last year, we've had a really special year. It's been, of course, unusual in a lot of ways, but we've had Ryan O'Mara with us for the full year. We've also had Marv and Angelina. So 3 key staff members of the pandemic were Colorado College students over the past year. In my previous life at the Fine Arts Center, I got to know Ryan and some other CC students, and really witnessed firsthand the rigors of being a student in the block plan. And holy smokes, it's no joke. And the CC bubble is discussed frequently, and it's understandable how that occurs because schedules are so incredibly demanding for these students. But what that also means for an organization like Inside Out is that a Colorado College student will come to our nonprofit incredibly insightful, incredibly prepared, organized. Just we have these brilliant young people who are so enthusiastic about the work we do, and bring with them all of these amazing skills that are inherent to who they are, but that they've also learned through their experiences as students at CC. So we know 100% that when we bring on board a Colorado College student, that student is ready to hit the ground running, that they have knowledge and curiosity in areas that our professional staff know nothing about. And at Inside Out, it's just been a really beautiful bridge as well, with serving young people from ages 13 to 24 at Inside Out, and to have those Colorado College students who fit right into that age group and that demographic that we are serving as a nonprofit, and just all of the beauty that they bring as peers to the young people that we are serving at Inside Out. And that those are just beautiful relationships for all of us. So the ways that CC students contribute to our agency is they're countless.
Well, I can note that this is my 5th year at Colorado College, and when I first arrived, the faculty who had been around for a while would say things like, "Oh, well, yeah, we care about this community, but," and then, "Oh, yeah, what are you doing, to engage with the community?" "Oh, well," kind of him hawk, a few projects here and there, some class-oriented projects, but really it just wasn't much. And those conversations were always in the context of, but things are changing. And the CCE, especially with the strategic plan that you all put together and broadcast it widely, not only to CC people, but also the community and partners. And so we're actually creating that bridge right now. And I see it happening, and it's really exciting, and it's momentum. And I'm hoping we can keep that up. For all the good reasons you said, Joy.
I do feel like there's a lot of exciting momentum between Colorado College and Colorado Springs right now, and so many like great partnerships to like build off of. And that's one of the things that like Nikki and I talk a lot about with students is like mutual reciprocity, that the community organization is getting benefit from it, but also that the students are learning and growing from it. And I think there's so many amazing opportunities that are provided to our students through community engaged and community-based learning. And it's just inspiring to see people like make those connections. And working in new student orientation, a lot of students come in with some perceptions of what Colorado Springs is or what it isn't. And that kind of sometimes will trap them on campus a little bit more than they might have expected because they think it's one way or the other. And so I enjoy finding ways to say, you know what, like, do you think that, or do you know that, can we go downtown? Can we go for a walking tour? Can we expose ourselves a little bit to this and learn and get involved with it and find ways to, make it a more inclusive space. And that's been exciting to kind of introduce students to not just Colorado College, but to Colorado Springs throughout new student orientation, especially next year when it'll be another COVID orientation year, more locally based, and there's going to be a lot of great opportunities in that I'm excited about.
Yes, building that momentum. I love it. We have about 2 minutes left. I want to leave that little bit of time to see if our guests have questions for our panelists. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions that you might have. And if you do not have a question, I do have one final wrap up for our panelists.
Peter says he's all ears.
Peter is ready for it. Yes, he really is. I love your dogging. He's got to be able to hear everything in the neighborhood that's going on. Could you all share, in reflecting on the engagement experiences from this last year, what advice or charge would you offer to folks?
I guess I would say, just to kind of reiterate where I started this evening, advice and charge is to keep innovating, to keep building those bridges and building those relationships, to continue giving young people the power, because they know what they want, they know what they need to get there. And so thinking about our work as an agency, just to keep being proactive and making sure that we are building the space for young people from CC and young people from the community to create the life and the community that they want and to see our role more as enablers and facilitators of that than the leaders.
My very quick advice would be for anyone interested in integrating a community-based project into a classroom to not let the block plan hold you back. And it is possible to do during a block. It's hard, but it's possible. And to contact the CCE because they'll help you all the way through. It's great.
I guess my advice would just be to like ask questions and check in with the students and the people that you're working with, because there's a lot of needs that are going unseen and therefore unmet. You know, the food pantry is a prime example that people are like, we don't have food insecurity on our campus. And it's like, oh yes, we do. And we've had it for a long time. And this is a way that we can realistically meet it. And because people weren't asking and people weren't having those conversations, it wasn't getting addressed. And so don't just assume you know how you could best work with an organization or help others, but really ask the questions and see what you can find.
That's perfect. Thank you all so much. I think that is the perfect note to end on. Thank you all so much for joining this evening. Feel free to stick around for our next session, which will be from 5:30 to 6. Congratulations to all of you again, and thank you to all our guests for joining. I'm going to go ahead and head back to the main room and hope to see you in another session.